All right, good morning and welcome. It's the first edition of Corporate Governance Platform in the new year 2021. So I think it's right to just say Happy New Year to each and every of our listeners. Welcome, Corporate Governance Platform, brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. I am Funmi Omoburiwo. Today on the program, we're looking at committee system and delegation of responsibilities. Committee system and delegation of responsibilities by the board. Of course, our guest seated in the studio, Mr. Alaba Ekundayo, FCIS, is Vice Chairman of the Lagos State ICSAN, is also Company Secretary, Financial Institutions Training Center, FITC. Good morning, Mr. Ekundayo, and Happy New Year to you.
Good morning. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all our listeners as well.
All right. Also here is Mr. Kayode Ketefe, FCIS, Head of Research, ICSAN. Good morning, Mr. Ketefe. Happy New Year.
Good morning, Funmi. Happy New Year to you all, our listeners. Great to be here.
All right. Good to have you back on the program in the new year. And to you, dear listener, we're saying thank you to you for staying with us all through. And as we've started the new year, we're looking forward to more partnership with you. We'll take this message. We'll be right back.
Hey, Obinna, good to see you. You look so worried. Is everything all right? I'm having serious issues in my company, balancing the interests of my company's many stakeholders like shareholders, management, customers, financiers, government, and communities giving us a problem. That has to do with corporate governance. Exactly. Then, you need to get in touch with ICSAN.
ICSAN?
Yeah, Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. They provide you with seasoned and top-ranking professionals trained to uphold the standards of corporate governance and efficient operations. You can also get in touch with
ICSAN.
If you want to become a Chartered Secretary and Administrator, contact
ICSAN
by visiting the website
www.icsan.org
or call 009 06 601 69.
ICSAN,
the hub of governance professionals.
Of course, ICSAN, definitely the hub of governance professionals. Let me also remind you that ICSAN is a leading recognized professional body in Nigeria that is dedicated to enhancing the status and practice of corporate governance and public administration. Like I said earlier, we're looking at committee system and delegation of responsibilities by the board. All right, Mr. Ekundayo, let's look at it. The committees, what are the committees that are traditionally recognized in corporate governance parlance as board committees?
All right. Thank you very much for the question. While organizations are at liberty to determine the type, the size, and the number of their board committees, the committees that are traditionally recognized in corporate governance parlance are: number one, Nomination and Governance Committee. Number two, Remunerations Committee. Number three, Audit Committee. And then the Risk Management Committee. Thank you.
Okay, so let's look at the roles of these committees. You said the Nomination and Governance Committee. Let's look at the roles of these committees one after the other.
I'm looking at the roles of the committees. If we want to start looking at them one after the other, I don't know if you have the time.
Okay, maybe we just take an overview of the roles of each of these committees.
Exactly.
Brief one.
Exactly. So what I can say is that the roles of the board committees highlighted or mentioned earlier is they are always stated in the board charter of each organization, and they are so numerous. And they are also available under Principle 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, and 11.5 of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance. So the details of those roles are there. However, since time will not permit us to go discussing each of them one after the other, I can just say that board committees are established to ensure board effectiveness and good governance, because they are expected to provide special attention and focus to board matters and responsibilities such as audit, risk management, remuneration, technology, strategy, policy formulation, and so on and so forth. All those matters that are responsibilities of the board that are delegated to the committees. So the committees devote a lot of their time, they devote their skill, competence, expertise, and experience in their deliberations on matters and reports presented to them by the management in order to ensure that they have robust discussion and they can make appropriate recommendations to the board. If required, they are allowed to engage experts and consultants to give them technical and professional advice so that they can make informed recommendations to the board. And whenever the board sits, so the committees make their recommendations and reports to the board, upon which decisions are made for the organization. Thank you.
All right. Let's look at, some of the things stipulated in the code. And one of such is that independent non-executive directors should be an integral member of all these committees. Why do you think this is required?
Since you mentioned the code, Principle 11 of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, 2018, stated the need to have independent non-executive directors in some of the board committees where possible, like the remuneration and the governance, nominations committee, governance committee, audit committee. If it also went further to state that the chairman of the remuneration committee should be an INED where desirable, and also that majority of members of the audit committee in private companies should be independent NEDs where possible. So NEDs, they are supposed to be integral members of this committee for the following reasons. Number one, based on their independence, they bring a high degree of objectivity to the board in their deliberations, and this is important for stakeholder trust and confidence. Number two, since the value that their shareholding is immaterial, since they have no strong relationship with the management, since they are not representing any influential shareholder in their deliberations, they demonstrate independent judgment, which is a requirement for good board decision and the success of organizations. Thank you.
All right. Now, the court stipulates that, the chairman of the company should not head any of these committees. Now, why do you think this provision is in the code?
Thank you. Actually, Section 29 of the code stated that the chairman of the board should not serve as chairman or member of the board committee. That's Section 2.9. And the reason for this is very simple. Since the deliberations of the committee, the reports of the committee are to be presented to the board, which he or she, as the chairman, shares, it will not be proper for him to make a report or a presentation to him or herself. So he cannot be a judge on a report or a presentation that is bringing to the board. He presenting and also to, as the one presiding over the meeting, to also make a judgment. Again, if he is to do so, there cannot be objectivity in board deliberations and decision making, because some members may have to be biased because it's their chairman now in a committee making a presentation to the board, and when they see him making a presentation, most of them will likely not want to speak against him as the chairman. Okay. So there can be bias in their judgment. So it is advisable for good practice that the chairman should not be a member of any board committee or share a committee. Notwithstanding, he can be consulted for clarifications in any area by any committee where required. Thank you.
Now, is it necessary for a small company to establish all these board committees?
While it is desirable to have these committees in an organization, for a small company, it may not be necessary due to the following reasons. Number one, The size of a small company may not require such. Number two, the small size of their board, because the board may not, for a small company, maybe they may have a 3-man board or 5-man board. They may not need to have several committees, because are we going to be putting one person in one committee or two, and so on and so forth. So the Nigerian code realized this, and so made a provision for organizations like small companies to combine any of the committees. For instance, the audit committee and the risk management committee can be combined into a single committee. It can be called audit and risk management committee. Again, like nomination, governance, and remunerations committees can be combined as a single committee. So the modality for operating this is just to expand the scope and the terms of reference of these combined committees in such a way that they will still be able to carry out the functions and responsibilities of all the committees in the committees that have been combined together. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Ketefe, let me come to you now. What advice does the Institute have for the companies on the need to get the composition of their committees right?
Thank you very much, Fumi. Let me start this way. The committee system was deliberately developed in corporate governance to make the work of the board of directors easier and more efficient. Each of the committees that is corporate that are recommended in the code, like the remuneration committee, audit committee, nomination and governance committee, has specific responsibilities which are very important. The performance of these functions by the committees helps to enhance board effectiveness and efficiency. You know, each committees focuses on specific areas delegated to it by the board, which enables the board itself to concentrate on overarching strategic agenda. So it is for this reason that ICSAN is hereby advising companies and organizations to ensure they get right the structure and mix in their committee system in order to reap the inherent benefits. Our institute can also assist in this regard by giving guidance to companies and other organizations on the issue of their board composition and effective use of committee system. Our training department also constantly features teams on board composition, committee system, and allied matters, while those seeking knowledge in this area can also attend our trainings to boost their capacity. Thank you.
All right. Will ICSAN rate the provisions on committee system in Nigeria Code of Corporate Governance 2020 as conforming with best practices?
Thank you very much. Principle 11 of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018 empowers the board to delegate our duties and responsibilities to well-structured committees. And you know, it must do this without abdicating its responsibilities. The said Principle 11 of the Code contains 16 recommended practices, which summarize best practices on the committee system. These provisions are well conceived and practicable, and they essentially represent acceptable standards on the subject. Let me also add that ICSAN was deeply involved in the drafting of the code and made their own contribution to ensure that the code generally attained the global best standard. Therefore, the provisions of the code on many issues, not only on the committee system alone, reflect the best practices. We will advise companies and organizations to abide by the provisions of the code. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ketefe. Any announcements for our listeners?
Briefly, let me just say that the June 2021 ICSAN examination is still on. You can register for the diet. Just come to the institute or log on to your internet and register for the examination. So come and register quickly, because before you know it, the time will be over. The lecture for the diet will start by the end of this month.
Okay.
Besides, you can also register as a student and later register for any diet examination at your convenient time.
Okay.
That is to say that registration as a student is always ongoing.
All right.
For more information on issues relating to examination and registration as a student, please call this number 080 90 660 169. 080 90 660 169. Thank you, and let me add, Happy New Year to you all.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kayode Ketafe, FCIS, Head of Research, ICSAN, and also our guest this morning, Mr. Alaba Ekondayo, FCIS, Vice Chairman, Lagos State Chapter, ICSAN, and also Company Secretary, Financial Institutions Training Center, FITC. It's been wonderful having you on the program this morning. And that's it on Corporate Governance Platform, brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. We return next week, Wednesday, 10:15 a.m., right here on Equator 9.7 FM. I am Funmi Omoburio. Good morning once again, and enjoy the rest of the day.